Our opening music welcomes each of us to our service this morning, welcomes each of us to our church, to our time with each other. It is a blended time, those here in the building and those with us online. Last Sunday, our service ended with a blessing, and it read, "A blessing regardless of the circumstances of your life, of who you love, whatever your marital status, whatever your faith, the color of your skin or your gender." I use those same words this morning as words of blessing, but also as words of welcome to Sunday service from the Unitarian Church in Cork. This morning, as always, as I have said, we are a blended gathering, those here in the building and those with us online. And this morning, as well as broadcasting on Facebook Live, we are also broadcasting for the first time on our YouTube channel. And with that, we light our chalice flame, the symbol of our church, the symbol of our hopes and desires, also the symbol of our frustrations, our disappointments, our questions, and our doubts. The words are in your service booklet, and we will say them together as a community. May this flame cast its light towards the coming days, reminding us that the future is not simply a place we are going, but a place we are creating. On behalf of all of us, I now ask Kay to light our chalice flame, the flame that casts its light towards the coming days. Invention is the mother of necessity. I have reached a time in my life where I'm beginning to be aware of the passing of the years, and also aware that as the years pass, the faster they seem to pass. I'm lucky that my mind is active. Alas, the same cannot be said of my body, with every crack of not so nimble joints, every moan and groan, every effort to get up from the couch. I am reminded that I have been around for a while and may be paying the price for the excesses of youth. Next Friday is International Day of Elderly Persons, and like everything else in life, language is problematic. Generally speaking, elderly means beyond the middle years. So in many countries, if anyone is over 65, they are considered elderly. And yet, I would imagine not many 65-year-olds think of themselves as such. And there is, of course, context. In parts of the world, such as Africa, due to the harshness of life and the expectancy of old age being reached, you can be considered elderly at just 45. And given the average life expectancy 2,000 years ago, Jesus would have been in his late middle years if he were, as we're told, crucified at the age of 33. I suppose it's all in the mind, as they say. Age really is a number, and it depends on your approach to life and your health, both physical and mental. So this morning, despite the confusion, we remember all our elderly, the lives they live, the memories accumulated, and the wisdom ready to be passed on if we would but listen. We remember those who are in ill health, who are frail, and those who find our modern tech-based world overwhelming. Those who have seen life as they know it change beyond recognition. And yes, that is progress. But sadly, progress always leaves somebody behind. And so our first candle this morning is lit for our elderly, those who have so much experience and wisdom to offer. They are perhaps our parents, our grandparents, our friends, our colleagues, and our neighbours. And as we light our first candle of caring, we remember those who have asked for our thoughts: Greta, Eileen, Margaret, Sean, and Liam. If you're with us online this morning, you may wish to light a candle at home, and if you don't have one nearby, then imagining will do the trick. For those of you here in the church building this morning, the floor, as they say, is yours.
Just lighting this candle once again, bring into focus the state of our mental health service at the moment. And I heard on the radio during the week that the government are supposed to have €1 billion left over to spend. And I'm just thinking that if some of that money went into mental health services and other services, would it improve a lot of areas. So again, I just brought it to focus and pray that the government will think of services like this that really need money put into them.
Each candle lit belongs to each of us. Each candle lit belongs to each of us, and that is what community is all about. Each candle shared is our candle. And that's why they will remain lighting throughout our service, to remind each of us that we are called to care and to share, and whenever possible, to help another along the way. When we pray, we may wish to address our prayers to God. And there is nothing wrong with that, but at its heart, prayer or reflection is an engagement with that deeper calling of our lives. So ultimately, names become unimportant. When we reflect, we engage with life, and all life is filled with that essence which we might name as God. Our opening reflection this morning comes from the Navajo tribe of Native American Indians. Their concept of God, by and large, would be very different from what we in Europe would traditionally have. But names are only names. It's the connection that matters, the sense of a connection with the very depth of life itself. The words are in your service booklet, and I would like us to say it together as a community. As I walk, the universe is walking with me. In beauty, it walks before me. In beauty, it walks behind me. In beauty, it walks below me. In beauty, it walks above me. As I walk, beauty is everywhere. As I walk with beauty.
Got my music stand. Like a bird on a wire, like a drunk in a midnight choir, I've tried in my way to be free. Like a worm on a hook, like a knife from some old-fashioned book, I've saved all my ribbons for thee. If I've been unkind, I hope that you can just let it go by. If if I've been untrue. I hope you know it was never to you. Like a baby stillborn, like a beast with his horn, I've torn everyone reached out to me. But I swear by the song and by all that I've done wrong, I will make it all up to thee. I saw a beggar leaning on his wooden crutch. He said to me, you must not ask for so much. A lady leaning in her darkened door, she cried to me, hey, why not ask for more? Like a bird on a wire, like a drunk in a midnight choir, I've tried in my way to be free.
During the week, it came the news that next month our electricity and gas prices are to be increased again. I say again because this is the third increase this year. The last increase was in August, not August of last year, but August just gone. Apparently, it's down to, as it always is, international forces and prices and wind power not providing the expected amount of electricity. The average household bill will increase from somewhere between 500 and 800 euros a year. That's a tenner or more a week. This will affect us all, but it will affect some more than others. And to be honest with you, the cost of living in this country is unacceptable. Cost of everything is frankly unacceptable. A cup of coffee, a sandwich, clothing, running a car, and don't get me started on car insurance. You may wonder what this has to do with church on a Sunday morning. Well, one of our roles surely is to speak out. And as prices rise, life in Ireland is fast becoming a rich man's sport. It is not fair, it is not just, and it is not acceptable. We cannot in this country keep making the basics of life beyond people's reach. We cannot make the less well off this winter choose between food and heating. As Unitarians, our view of that which we may name as God is as wide as life and as varied in its experiences. One size doesn't fit all. In fact, how boring would that be? Nowhere is this more evident than in our approach to readings in church. Many sources, many voices and experiences and understandings. We are not here confined to one book, one view, and one understanding. Now, just a word to let you know that our reading rota is taking shape and it will kick into action in the next week or two. The rota, when completed, will be posted in the notice board monthly in the service booklet and in the worship section of our website. Each person on the rota will have plenty of notice when they are due to read, and may I thank each of you for the fantastic response. At the moment, we have a couple of spaces left, and that will ensure that each reader gets to read twice a year. If you would like to be part of our reading team, have a word with me after service, or if you're online, leave a comment section. Leave a comment in the comment section. Our first reading this morning is another of our audio type book readings, which we like to do once in a while. It gives us a chance to hear some great voices. Our audio piece comes from a man called Richard Holloway. Born in 1933, he was an Anglican priest who became the Bishop of Edinburgh in 1986. In 1992, he became the Archbishop head of the Anglican Church in Scotland. In the year 2000, aged 67, he announced that he could no longer remain a priest or a bishop, as he had for many years been questioning his Christian faith. He lives in Edinburgh with his wife. In this clip, he addresses the question, is the pursuit of happiness the meaning of life?
Certainly one of the oldest replies to the meaning of life, the purpose of life, is that we're here to be happy. We're here to pursue happiness. It's even mentioned in the American Constitution that we have a right to the pursuit of happiness. It's a paradoxical business, however, happiness, because experience seems to teach that if you pursue happiness, if you go after pleasure, you don't get them. Happiness hits you almost on the slant, on the angle, when you're engaged in something else, when you're listening to music, when you're rushing to a date with someone you love, when you're really massively enjoying a great text and you suddenly have a sense of well-being, which is probably the word that's beneath the word happiness. In Greek, it's kind of eudaimonia, this sense both of spiritual and physical attunement. And it's a wonderful state. But the experience seems to teach that the way to lose it is to chase it. And so it would seem to me that to pursue happiness is always a mistake. Pursue other things, pursue the good of others, pursue a career in music, learn how to paint, learn how to write a book, develop your muscles so that you can climb mountains. Do any of these things. Pursue an object, a good object, or maybe just a neutral object, and happiness might hit you. It comes at an angle to reality. Pursue pleasure for its own sake, and you lose that. I mean, great examples of the way that we humans, because we're rather unbalanced creatures, so unlike the other animals, we're not very good at living in balance with the rest of nature. We overeat. We indulge in all sorts of things. We drink too much. We get addicted to drugs and alcohol and sex because there is something out of tune about us. So paradoxically, seeking happiness through pleasures that can then take us over and imprison us can in fact be a shortcut to absolute misery. And there's no misery like the person who's addicted to something she can't give up, if it's something relatively trivial like cigarettes. So the answer seems to be that we humans need to learn a kind of wise balance in living, and that simply to pursue pleasure, to pursue our own ends, is a quick route, not to happiness, but to misery.
Richard Holloway. I was on Friday night watching one of the Rocky movies, not by design, but by accident. And part of his training was to chase a chicken and catch the chicken to build up speed. And eventually, Rocky caught the chicken and held it up and said, "What do I do with it now?" Richard Holloway's point about chasing happiness. I must confess that sometimes picking out my reading for a service can be something of a trial, because we don't have one book as a reference. So the world is my oyster, and a rather big one. But then there are times when it seems just to fall into my lap, and I find myself glancing upwards and saying, "Nice one, thanks." During the week, I left the church and I headed for the bus stop. And the bus stop is about 100 yards at the top of Princess Street. As I turned the corner onto Patrick Street, I saw a young man with a blanket sitting in a doorway with a plastic cup in front of him on the footpath. I went to the bus stop, and as I was waiting for the bus, I saw an elderly lady with her shopping bag stop in front of the young man, open her purse and take out what seemed to be just one coin, which she bent down and placed in his plastic cup. It was a wonderful and simple act of generosity that probably, save for me, went unnoticed. I immediately thought of this reading, which, like the elderly lady, needs no explanation. Our second reading is from chapter 12 of the Gospel of Mark. Jesus sat down near the collection box in the temple and watched as the crowds dropped in their money. Many rich people put in large amounts. Then a widow came and dropped in 2 small coins. Jesus called his disciples to him and said, "I tell you the truth, this poor widow has given more than all the others who are making contributions. For they gave a tiny part of their surplus, but she, as poor as she is, has given everything she had to live on." Here ends our readings for this morning. As always, encompassing the width and indeed the depth of our individual outlooks on life. And may I just remind you once again, if you would like to be part of our reading team, have a word with me after service, or you can drop a line into the comments section. As a church, as we've just heard with our reading rota, we rely on the goodwill of our people to give whatever they can, be it doing a reading, playing music, putting away the chairs after service, or providing us with flowers every week. But we also rely on those ordained to be our ministers, and over the years, many of our ministers around the world have made an impact on the national and indeed the international stages. Having said that, I am sure, like every other church, we too have a gallery of rogues and rascals. Today, we mark the anniversary of one such minister. Arthur Powell Davis was minister of the prestigious All Souls Unitarian Church in Washington, and he gained international prominence by speaking out against the famous McCarthy communist purge in Hollywood in the 1950s. It ended many careers and sadly ended many lives. Powell was not a communist. In fact, he had no time for it. but he saw the purge as nothing more than a witch hunt. Arthur Powell Davis was born in Liverpool, and he became a Methodist minister who served in parishes in London before moving to America to become the minister of the Methodist Church in Portland in Oregon. It was here during his ecumenical work that he came in contact with Portland's local Unitarian church. In 1933, he left the Methodist Church and was ordained a Unitarian minister. He served in Washington from 1944 until his death. He was the author of 10 books, and 8 books have been written about him and his life. There was an Irish twist to this as well. Arthur Powell Davis was a lifelong friend of George Bernard Shaw. The Reverend Arthur Powell Davis died on this day in 1957 at the young age of 55. And to quote from our hymnal, "Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of the horizons of their vision, we too dream." And so we say together our affirmation. Its words are a simple statement of intent and desire, not designed to tie us up in knots. It's printed for those in the building on your service booklet, and we will say it together as a community. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. And please don't tell me I forgot to put it in for the second week in a row. As I recover from my embarrassment, now is a good time for silence. I wouldn't mind, but just before service, I was bragging to somebody that I could now produce those service booklets in my sleep. And that's obviously what I did. In life, fashion dictates, and this applies to the TV we watch. Trends come and go, programs come and go, because at the end of the day, we crave change. We crave new things to entertain and delight us. The latest trend is towards those programs where ordinary people like me and you undergo army training in a jungle under the watchful eye of some retired sergeant major type who loves to shout really loud. And it seems we love such programs. It's a cruel twist of human nature that we delight both in success and failure with equal amounts of gusto. The shows are based on army training, more so the training of the so-called elite forces. All armies have such a force. Here we have the Rangers, Britain has the SAS, and America have the Navy SEALs. The Navy SEALs are the cream of the crop as far as the American Defense Forces go. They are the top 1%. Their identities are never revealed, like our own Army Rangers. Not even their loved ones know they are Navy SEALs. Like all such elite units, they see things no one should see and do things that most of us would not want to do. To become a Navy SEAL is near impossible. Before beginning training, there is a year-long assessment. The training, when it begins, is both brutal and punishing, physically and mentally. It is designed to push mind and body to the very edge of human endurance. Training takes 2.5 years. On the first day of training, the would-be Navy SEALs gather to be told of the nightmare that lies ahead of them. They will be told in graphic detail, there is no soft cell here. They will also be told that 75% of them won't make it. They are then shown a bell in the courtyard, and they are told that whenever they want to end the nightmare, whenever they want to call it a day, whenever they want to quit, they just have to go and ring the bell, and it will all be over. Then they are told, never ring the bell. I suspect the point is to cultivate a sense of endurance, a sense of team, all underpinned by a sense of hope. For the Navy SEAL, there is always tomorrow. Hope is that which underpins life. The flower breaks through the soil in the hope that it will rain. The bee lands on a flower hoping to find nectar, and the lion prowls the prairie hoping to find food. As our COVID restrictions wind down and come largely to an end, if we have realized anything during the past 18 months, it is that hope is very real. It became so much more than a cheerleading exercise, so much more than a 4-letter word designed to make us feel better. In terms of church and faith, many would tell me that my hope, my salvation, lies in events that happened 2,000 years ago, namely the dying on the cross of Jesus for my sins. I'm with John Spong on this one, and with respect, I choose not to put my hope in events of the past, in the God of the past, but rather in today and the God of today. And anyway, whatever hope Jesus may offer, surely that's not in his death, but in the manner and the example of his living. He showed us that God, however it be named, has its very essence in each one of us, each one of you. Realizing this, not only do we become the hope for ourselves, but we become the hope for each other. Because surely that must be the very purpose of religion, not to look back, but to look to today, to look to tomorrow, to always work for a better tomorrow, and to empower each of us to be the hope. And I'm sure we have all had times when we have been tempted to ring the bell. I've had times in different situations when I had one hand on the bell, ready to give it a right good rattle. There were times during my ministry training where I thought, where the hell is that bell when I need it? But then hope doesn't come to us in a blaze of glory. Mostly it is quiet and gentle, unassuming. And if we turn away even for a second, we can miss it. It doesn't come in a cross, in a blood sacrifice. It comes in a smile, a word, and a gesture. It comes in an elderly lady stopping in front of a man begging on the street, opening her purse and taking out one coin. That is hope. It is in our candles still lighting on our table, each representing the hope offered to another, each representing the God of today, the God of this moment. Listen carefully to life in the coming week, because hope is all around you, waiting to be heard, waiting to be recognized, waiting to interact with you and your life, waiting to take your hand and lead you. So we reflect, not merely saying the words, but allowing them to resonate with us. This may not happen now, but maybe in an hour from now, a day from now, a week from now, these words may rise within us and give way to a new way of thinking. So from our service booklet this morning, we say together a very short but a very powerful reflection. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Suzanne takes you down to a place near the river. You can hear boats go by. You can spend the night beside her. You know that she's half crazy. That's why you wanna be there. She feeds you tea and oranges that come all the way from China. And just when you mean to tell her that you have nothing to give her, she gets you on her wavelength, and she lets the river answer that you've always been her lover. You want to travel with her, and you want to travel blind, and to know she will trust you, for you've touched a perfect body with your mind. Jesus was a sailor when he walked upon the water. He spent a long time watching from his lonely wooden tower, and when he knew for certain only drowning men could see him, he said, all men will be sailors then until the sea shall free them. But he himself was broken long before the sky would open, forsaken, almost human. He sank beneath your wisdom like a stone. And you want to travel with him, and you want to travel blind, and think maybe you'll trust him, for he's touched your perfect body with his mind. Suzanne takes your hand and she leads you to the river. She's wearing rags and feathers from the Salvation Army counter, and the sun pours down like honey, Our Lady of the Harbor. She shows you where to look among the garbage and the flowers. There are heroes in the seaweed, there are children in the morning. They are leaning out for love. They will lean that way forever, while Suzanne holds a mirror. You want to travel with her, and you want to travel blind, and you know she will trust you. You've touched her perfect body with her mind.
Just some very quick notices. Next week, next Sunday, is our Harvest Festival. So if anybody would like to bring along something to add to our harvest display, that would be appreciated. Anything non-perishable will be given to a local charity. And the fresh produce, those of you here in the church can share that among you and bring it home. Our speaker for the service will be Mr. Michael Farr. Michael is a local farmer, and he will speak to us about the life and the work of those who cultivate our land and grow the food we eat. I know my only interaction with farmers is getting stuck behind a tractor while driving. And I must admit, it is then I tend to lose all hope. Later on this afternoon, I will be representing our church at a service to mark the 150th anniversary of St. Finbarr's Anglican Church in the city. The remainder of the notices are on the back page of the service booklet, so there's no need to run through them and bore you even further. There are many great actors around today, but to be honest, most of them will never be truly iconic. That golden age of Hollywood seems to have passed, or maybe I'm just getting old. Today, though, marks the anniversary of one such icon, Paul Newman died at the age of 83 on this day in 2008. Born in Cleveland, Newman was a graduate of Yale. He starred in such iconic movies as Cool Hand Luke, The Hustler, The Color of Money, for which he won an Oscar, and of course, alongside Robert Redford in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He was an accomplished businessman with his own range of food, and he was a racing driver who took part in the famous Le Mans 24-hour race. He was also known for his charity work. In fact, the profits from his food company all went to charity. He was so recognized for this work that his death was reported in L'Osservatore Romano, the Vatican newspaper. He married his wife, Joanne Woodward, in 1958 in a Unitarian church. Both he and his wife would be lifelong Unitarians. Paul Newman was the father to 6 children. His only son, Scott, died of a drug overdose in 1978. He once said, "The best thing you can give yourselves is the gift of possibility. And the best thing you can give each other is to pledge to go on protecting that." Those are very powerful words with which to draw our service this morning to a close. Thank you all for being here in the building and online, and for being the life of our service. To Leash, as always, for our flowers, to Kay for lighting the chalice, and to Pierce for his wonderful music. We end our service, but we begin our week with a blessing. The spirit and the essence of the holy dwells within each of you. As you leave, may this be the one lesson you take with you. And may that essence mind, protect, guide, and inspire you in all you do this week. Our service comes to an end with the hope that peace may be with each of you, those you love and those you care for. Amen.
Thank you.